Uh, so, so today we have Anoop Kumar with us, and he'll be sharing some stuff and sharing some questions. So, go ahead, Anoop, all yours.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Floyd de Silva. And I have known Floyd for almost a decade, maybe more. And we have shared a common interest in spirituality, in finding meaning in life, discussing on various gurus, and discussing on the corporate world, um, and so on and so forth. And there have been a lot of insights that I have gained from him. Floyd is a very interesting person who has done his telecommunication and software engineering from BITS in Pilani. And thereafter, his life took a turn and he started finding for the next 18 years meaning in life, where he went in search of various gurus, in search of various scriptures, and was doing seminars, workshops, and he studied the aspect of the knowledge of what do you call astrology in a very deep way. And he has, since the past decade, started consulting people on astrology, guiding them. But his way of guiding is very, very different, which is a very Zen way of guiding. So you need to experience it for yourself. I have got a reading done and I'm mighty impressed with that, right? Now, uh, you know, today I'm honored to be talking to Floyd, and he lives in Goa, but basically he is traveling from Goa all over the world, I would say, and in search of, once again, meaning in life, gurus, and as much as he can imbibe, uh, he makes that constant effort. So, Floyd, my question to you today is, because I'm myself a seeker, just like you.
Yes.
And my question to you would be that a lot of the youngsters I have met in this field of life, where they don't have a clue on our ancient scriptures like the Gita, Mahabharata, and at somewhere in them they kind of feel guilty, or they keep asking this question: is it all right not to know anything of that aspect of the ancient philosophy? Is it okay the way they are living? So, what would be your take on that?
Yeah. So, I'm presuming these are, like people coming from Indian Hindu families. Is it correct?
Yeah, Hindu families, and then, of course, they could be non-Hindu also, because Hinduism is one of the oldest religions of the world. So, people who want to know about philosophy need
Mm.
not be necessarily from a Hindu background, right? It could be from any. So, it's an intellectual question which kind
Yeah.
of intrigues many.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, see, essentially, guilt, you said you use the word guilt, which is quite a big word. If they're really feeling guilt, then I think guilt is a very negative energy. And it's one of the very lowest forms. Like I was sharing some stuff about Christianity with a Polish healer from
Okay.
Poland. He's a Polish guy, he teaches massage and stuff like that. So he made a very interesting point. He said that his religion, the Christian religion, the Roman Catholicism, imbibed put so much guilt into him, because every time you go to church and you pray, you say, I am a sinner. I am a sinner. Pray for us
Hmm.
sinners. So every
Hmm.
time you're saying sinner, sinner, and then you're going to confession, like as if you're a criminal, some kind of confession. The confession happens in church and it happens in jail. You have to actually tell your sins. So uh, the idea of guilt and the idea of some kind of fear is not very helpful in devotion towards something higher.
Very well said. Yes.
So I think somewhere it's coming from this, idea of cultural conditioning, religious conditioning, and things like that. But I don't think that is what the Indian philosophy and the tradition and the real Sanatan Dharma was all about. It
Hmm.
was about a quest. So that's why people went on Brahmana. The word is called Brahman. Brahman means traveling all
Hmm.
over the country. Brahman kar raha, we say. So they would travel the country to seek the truth. They would meet different people, not just gurus. They would meet, businessmen like yourself. They would meet uh, all kinds of people, doctors, engineers, shoemakers, cobblers, barbers, farmers, and they would learn from that. The real sannyasis in the quest for life. And that's why the discipline also came to be known as brahmacharya. So that is residing in the Brahman.
Okay.
So, so I would say that I'm not saying that you can, of course, learn the scriptures. Why to feel guilty? You just open YouTube and you can get hundreds of resources nowadays. So we are blessed, at the click on your phone, there's so much of stuff, but probably that interest itself is not there, that longing for knowing something of that nature. But for me, what is more grounded is stuff like travel, where I feel I mean, I wish I had the opportunity when I was in engineering college, but we did only one tour of North India and it costed only 2,000 rupees, which was a 10-15 day tour. So that was the only experience we had of traveling during that time. But I think travel is something which enriches, and India is a spiritual land. So as you traverse this land, yeah, everything, there's so much of perspective, there's so much of things you can learn. And as a youngster, definitely you can do it much better. You can rough it up and you can, go frugal and you can do it really, in a very organic way. So, so I would say that, rather than just, getting guilty about something which you're not interested in anyway in doing,
Okay.
so I would say learn from life, and essentially our tradition or this Eastern philosophy, Indian philosophy, we use terms like guru, Zen master, because the teachers actually, pass this knowledge. So it's filtered through their experience, through their wisdom, and then given to the next generation.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, what happens is when the guru comes into picture, there comes also that big organization structure. And one of my teachers, he very rightly said, when the organization comes, the teaching is lost.
Hmm.
You know,
True.
so it's the affair between the guru and the devotee is very personal. And
Hmm.
it has a flavor of the, sort of a way. It's very intimate in some way. It's very one-on-one kind of thing, like the conversation we are having now. It's a satsang, between seekers, between people who are exploring the path. So that's what I would think of it, that when you have that vital force in you, brimming inside you, maybe climb mountains, travel the country, do stuff, fall in love, fail in love, all of that, because that is truly life. And yeah, if you meet a teacher along the way on this journey, you meet someone who can be a guru. Does not mean guru for a lifetime or 7 lifetimes, but someone who can impart this kind of education, then why not?
Okay. Okay. So what you're essentially saying that it may not be necessary to delve and to have read these scriptures. And if one has not read them, one should not feel guilty,
Did
but
Kabir Das
do the
read
things that one
scriptures?
enjoys doing.
Did Kabir Das read scriptures? Did Guru Nanak read scriptures? Did I don't know about Mirabai. She came from an affluent family, but probably she didn't read scriptures.
Okay, okay.
So
That has been a very, very profound reply, which answers the questions of many, not only myself, but so many who are watching us right now. Another very interesting question which comes into my mind is that what is it that triggered you into finding the quest of life?
mm,
What exactly? Because you have come from a very uh, soft field and a hard field, software engineer. So it is both, where you studied the hard and soft aspect of
yeah,
the engineering. But how come you delved and suddenly took a diversion into doing workshops on past life regression,
yeah,
guiding people on life? What triggered it?
yeah. So that is very interesting, actually. Uh, so 18 years back, and I remember it was winter holidays, December, and maybe one of my, I think the first semester in engineering college.
Hmm.
So that was the time, and I remember my father had learned theology, philosophy. So he mentioned Rajneesh, someone called Rajneesh. You know, that's the name he used. And he said there's someone called Rajneesh, and nobody can beat him at any debate. That's what, in his limited understanding, he told me. So when I
Mm-hmm.
saw this name, Osho, Rajneesh, whatever it was, in the library, Landing Library, I picked up that book. And I was,
Mm-hmm.
sort of flabbergasted by the way at which life was looked at, and very simple. It wasn't like, complicated philosophy. So that was one of the first tryst with spirituality. And then, of course, yoga, meditation, all this stuff came along. But but there was, under all of that, what I would say was real, was a meaninglessness in life, feeling of meaninglessness. This
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
there from quite early, actually. It was not like, uh, it was there like forever, I think maybe from the age of 9, 10, there was a sort of meaninglessness, and I would think, when I remember my parents used to say, okay, let's go for the amusement fair, where you have these things and all that. So I would enjoy the food and whatever rides and whatever, we would enjoy it. But before leaving for any of these kind of social, where you take your kids out, I'm sure you've done it. So you take your kids out for some kind of, fresh air, that kind of thing. But I used to always think, even as a child, that why are we doing this? What's the
Mm-hmm.
point in this?
Right.
So, so deep down, there was this meaninglessness, and that was hit when my father passed away at the age of 19.
Mm.
And I remember lifting his dead body from the morgue. And I realized, that this is as good as, the meat which you get from the fridge. You just remove a dead body from the fridge. The morgue is literally a fridge, so that's when it struck, really, really. And then after my father's passing away, I took up a job as an insurance advisor. That was one of my first jobs. And that time, the first income that I got, I utilized it for learning meditation and stuff like that. So it's not like a doing, it's not like I did it. It just happened, that way. It just happened that way. And ever since that,
Mm.
as you said, I'm exploring, meeting gurus, meeting people. And from more established gurus and organization, it became more about the people who are actually not so visible, but have these rare spiritual insights. So that is happening on the go, it's continuously happening.
Right. Right. No, I can fully understand because sometimes people who are very dear to you, when they pass on to the next plane, and if you are attached to them, it kind of leaves a very deep impact
Yeah.
on the people still on the planet, right?
That's what I
So,
say. Death is the biggest teacher.
hmm, hmm.
Death is the
So
biggest guru.
that brings me to the next very interesting questions. That the people who suddenly leave planet Earth, right,
Hmm.
whose jobs are still undone, unfulfilled, and who are somewhere in their mid age, right, and still have lots to do, but they have still done a lot. And suddenly, because of no fault of theirs, they kind of pass on suddenly. So, what should be the take of the family? How should they cope with this loss? How can they look at this aspect, this
Hmm.
very deep, hard hitting aspect? Because it leaves them in smithereens, it leaves them totally tattered. How should they cope with this grief?
Yeah,
What would be your take on it, since you have been through it yourself?
yeah, yeah.
That's why I asked you this question.
My dad passed away when he was about 50 to 53.
Hmm.
So he's fairly young. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then, it's like you're dealing with a crisis on a mega level, because you don't know where the money is, where the business is going, what's happening, you know. So, yeah, so I think it's going to be very different, in different families because the dynamics between the children and the parent who is surviving, you know, whether it's the mother or father, whatever, who is alive, and then the children, it really will depend a lot on their dynamics. So there cannot be a general prescription. But for me, what was the coping mechanism was through spirituality. For me, it was through spirituality and that kind of thing. And for my mother, what I remember is that she took up karma yoga from that time on.
Okay.
And she, like, of course, running the father's business, but also one of the beautiful things that she would do is, of course, prayer and all this stuff was part of her life. But whenever there would be a vendor, let's say, a fish vendor comes to the shop and wants to buy something or just wants to sell whatever, vegetables or fish or whatever. And she sees, this woman is in pain. She's lifting a heavy basket. You might have seen in Goa, these people moving around with vegetables, fish. So, and they bring it, So this is much before Zomato. The system has always been there in Goa. And
Hmm.
organically, it's there in all our villages in India. So
Hmm.
so that woman may be in pain, maybe she's sick, maybe she doesn't come for 2 days, or something happens, or maybe she's gone through domestic abuse or something like that. So she will,
Hmm.
say that, okay, fine, there is a certain government scheme, social scheme, where you can benefit and you can get an additional income. There is a certain scheme which can give you medical benefits.
Hmm.
And whenever my mother would go to the department, to the government offices, she would take extra uh, photocopies of the forms, different forms, and check, what are the formalities required to be done, and help these people who might be illiterate or less educated to avail those things. So for
Hmm.
them, it was karma yoga. So one thing we have to understand is, Ajkal, people talk a lot about depression, anxiety. I know you're also going in that direction, that the people who are left behind, they are into some kind
Yes.
of depression and
Correct.
anxiety. So
Hmm.
either way, for me, it was spirituality, focus outside, focus on something bigger, higher, not outside, but bigger, higher, which could be within me. For my mother, it was service.
Hmm.
So, uh,
Yes.
so it is always, that if you cry about your pain and you focus on that, that's what the Dalai Lama says, depression is when you say me, me, me. So
Hmm.
I think it has to go out in these dimensions, do bhakti, do yoga, do some service. And, joy cannot be kept for oneself. Joy
Hmm.
has to be given, and then more joy comes.
Okay.
So I
No,
think,
that,
yeah, do things
yes.
which, give others joy rather than yourself being in craving always for joy. I want joy. I want joy. Then you're a beggar for joy. You know?
Very well said. Very well said. So one should engage oneself into meaningful activities, which means something to you, uh, and that's a medium to kind of cope up with that loss.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So one of the other very common questions which come up, and I'm sure you're quite tired of answering this question to many, but
Okay.
is there a life after life? Because anybody who's passed on, the near and dear ones would like to know, like in Gita, it has been said that the soul cannot be destroyed, right?
Mm.
It is the body which gets destroyed. So, does the soul live on, or is it living in another plane? And what is your take on this?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, see, what I have done is one of the modalities which I came across on the journey was past life regression.
Hmm,
So
correct.
definitely when you undergo this process of deep relaxation, mild hypnosis, and going back into your memories, some things do surface. And there is some story which doesn't seem to be of this life, but relates to this life in some way. This is what I've
Hmm,
seen. I've seen for myself, I've seen for so many of my clients. Recently, I was in Dharamshala, so many clients, most of them were from Israel and things like that. So I've seen that, but, I would say, what is the utility of asking this question? That's what I would ask the questioner. What is the utility of asking this question?
hmm, hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is just a solace for the time that you feel the grief very intensely.
Acha. Okay, so you're still on the uh, grief part.
Yeah, in the sense that, yes, not everybody is able to filter it
Hmm.
in a very constructive way. So there are people who undergo tremendous grief. So they would like to know at that point of time that is the soul watching them, looking after them. So that becomes a utilitarian question for them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, I think mental constructs, they don't really help in case of grief. And
Hmm,
what I've seen my father's dad, mother's dad, before that, my grandfather, grandmother,
hmm,
who I didn't live with, but we were, connected. So, but my father and mother I lived with when they passed away. So, what I realized is, yes, there, philosophically or theoretically or even practically, there might be something called as future life, past life, stuff like that. Definitely it's there. But if someone is going through grief, it's a very transformational force.
correct.
So that grief period is usually 5 years.
Hmm.
And after 3 years, it kind of starts getting easy. But I am sort of very certain. I've heard this somewhere, but then through my experience, I'm kind of certain that it really sort of you get out of it after 5 years. But in that 5 years, of course, everyone's circumstances are different. So definitely moving on with life. And yeah, I think seva and doing something out of yourself, not just focusing on how will I get joy, how will I get solace, you know. So something that takes you to something outside you, something that creates a connection with things around you.
Right,
So I would
right.
think that best is to mm, find things which not just make oneself happy, but also to sort of serve something higher, and then that automatically puts things in perspective. Also, animals play a big role, connection with animals. And because I remember there were few uh, stray dogs, but they used to live near our house outside. So when I when my mother was not well and, on the verge of dying. So they would come to me and they would not behave in their usual, begging for food kind of way. So they would behave differently. They would stand, sort of solidarity. So that kind of thing, nature is very powerful, spending time in nature. And I did a lot of that when my mother passed away. So these are all very powerful things. And yeah, if someone is spiritually tuned, they can even see where the person will take up the next birth.
Okay.
But
Okay.
also they have to be freed from this human plane, so to say. So we have certain rituals in the Indian tradition which are very beautiful, where let give a farewell to the soul. You honor that person's journey, you give a farewell. And usually it's done by the river in the Vedic tradition. And then there are other ways also to go about it. Usually it's a 2 days ritual where you uh, sort of complete, the books, what you do in March for your hotels. You complete the books, you put a completion to all of it. So that's what these rituals are actually meant for. And when I saw them, it was very scientific. Like you pour water, there's, very specific combinations. It's not just
Hmm.
prayer and, saying that, okay, God, deliver this guy. It's not like that. It's like it has a lot of rituals, mudras, it's yogic in nature, it is esoteric in nature. So all these things are there which help the soul to transition. Because
Right.
in the course of doing consultations, I meet many people who are, dealing with stuck souls from their family, who are not letting them move on with their family, with their marriage, because the stuck soul says, "Bhai, mere ko chudao." You know, get
I got it.
get me gati. We call it gati, not moksha.
I got it.
Moksha is when you free from the cycle, but gati means you go out of this particular plane. So you don't have a body, you're still stuck in this plane, and you're projecting your energy on the people who are close to you so that they give you gati and free you from here.
Got it. Got it.
Uh,
Very interesting. Very interesting for me also. Very interesting. Some new perspectives
yeah.
on
So
this.
this is not
Thanks.
new. This is very ancient, actually. This is being done. And it has
Hmm.
a meaning behind it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe not have a meaning in terms of your ultimate, enlightenment, liberation. Maybe not
Hmm.
in that scheme, but in the scheme of day-to-day material happiness.
Hmm.
What I've found is the deities, the temple practices, the different, things which are done around festivals. So you'll see most of our festivals are around full moon, new moon, things like that. Diwali is on a new moon, Holi is on a full moon. So this is all very, there is some kind of mathematical rhythm to all of it. So that is very important for a holistic material life. And it is said that India was a very spiritually prosperous land. And as you have this beautiful hotel in Khajuraho. So that is a testament to what I'm saying, the kind of architecture. And I think, uh, as you travel the world, you would know, that this kind of something rare.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
So I think that, scientific and mathematical aspect of, like you said, even the scriptures or even the rituals, I think it has to be put in a modern perspective so that people find it cool, to do.
It brings me naturally to the next question is that is it possible to realize the meaning in life or of life without getting into scriptures or rituals? Because why I ask this question is once again for the people who may have just started on this journey of
Yeah,
spirituality, that they don't have the younger generation, don't have, they're born at a different age, so you can't blame them. They don't have much patience. So,
yeah,
like you had the patience of going from guru to guru, and you still have the patience of going from guru to guru, right? And you still have the patience to explore. But the younger generation does not. Is
mm.
it still possible to be spiritual and to realize the meaning in life without doing this journey of what is called Charveti, 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 and also going to various gurus.
Yeah. So you're saying uh,
Can one do it
without
by
the
oneself?
without the journey, you're saying.
Yeah, can one find meaning in life, or so as to say enlightenment if one is searching for?
Hmm.
Can one do this, find the meaning in life like you delved into by doing it by going from ashram to ashram, right?
Hmm.
But is it possible for a youngster of today, who's a high flying youngster, to find this in their daily lives, like
Yeah.
flying in a Concorde or
Yeah.
not going to a guru, not meeting a Deepak Chopra? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I would say that everyone's journey is very different, because spirituality is not a linear path. So
Hmm.
what could come last for me? Maybe I'll be flying in a Concorde in 10 years from now. And maybe someone who flew in a Concorde is going to roam in the Himalayas. And for me, it's ulta, reverse, isn't it? So it's not a linear journey. Someone may start with yoga, go to Tantra, then go into this. Someone may start with books. Someone may start with, like in my case, it was actual life experience, shaking experience. And of course, there is always life, which is at the center of all of it, life and death. So it can be any way. It's like there are infinite dimensions. So I asked a shaman from Northeast, I asked him, what are the main spiritual paths? He said there are as many spiritual paths as there are atoms in the universe. So
Wow.
you make your own path, and the path is made by walking. So you start, and some people, yes, maybe, for some reason, they just have a glimpse of the truth without, maybe they're just watching TV or they're just stepping out of a bus, and it just happens for some reason, and they don't even know it has happened. And what UG Krishnamurti, because I know people who met UG Krishnamurti.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so he was always used to say that your spiritual practices are not going to lead to any kind of enlightenment. So he would say that it is an
Very well said.
it was an accident. That's what he used to say. It's an accident that while doing spiritual practices you attain. But of course, he also did spiritual practices. And then we might have
Right.
given up or whatever, and it just happened. And most people seem to come to the conclusion that it just happens. But
Hmm.
some people like Nisarga Datta Maharaj, same level, but he said, you do your chanting or you do your meditation, whatever suits you. So, so yeah, I think everyone wants some kind of freedom or happiness or something like that in life. And even if they are, looking to buy a Rolls Royce and a Concorde and whatever it is, they're still looking for some kind of happiness, through that.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Hmm.
and maybe it's subconscious. They don't even know that they're looking for happiness or something like that. They say, no, I need to have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But money for what? And the money is again, to get some kind of happiness or maybe a lower form of happiness called as pleasure. I won't say it's lower. Pleasure is also important, but pleasure is transient. It's
So
not life satisfaction.
what is the role of money in your life? Materialism. How do you relate with it? Because in the business world, that is all there is, that is money, 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 power, power, power. That's all there is. How do you relate with materialism?
No, see, money is a very important force. And, that's why in our tradition also it's depicted, that Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth and, affluence and all these things. So money is a very powerful force. It can make or break, even the best.
Hmm.
Money and sex are the two things
Hmm.
where, someone can really, if something goes wrong in this, even your years of sadhana or spiritual practice or education, whatever accomplishments, it can just shake off, it can just wither away within no time. So these are very powerful forces. I feel money is a form of Shakti, and
Hmm.
sex also is connected with, this kind of force, very powerful force. So this
Hmm.
is Shakti, and it is very important. And uh, yeah, I think for me, it is also that what I found personally in my life is that always when I'm spontaneous, that's when money comes.
Mhm.
When things are just flowing and I'm doing something, that's when Lakshmi comes into life, because Lakshmi doesn't want someone who's needy,
Mhm.
Like it's like a woman, if you want a woman in your life, but you're begging her all the time, come, 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 come on a
Hmm.
date, let's hang out, let's do this.
Hmm.
And who would want to be with someone who's needy?
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it's a very, again, delicate balance. Means you want to date the woman, but you don't want to become too much of a, what do you call it? Uh, pylons kind of thing,
Hmm. But in the sense that let's look at a business house like the Ambanis, where they are obsessed with money, vis-a-vis, let us take a person like yourself who's not obsessed with money at all.
Mm.
So, is there a right or a wrong in either of the situations?
No, I think it's a journey, because see, even Mukesh Ambani was born in a particular family.
Yeah.
So I mean the theory of, even if we consider rebirth or we don't consider rebirth, but he was born in a privileged background and that made him do certain things. And of course, he didn't uh, give it away. He worked on it. He worked on it. He preserved it, and he built it, and he expanded it. So that is where his credit comes into play because he would always be maybe, compared to his father. So it's not an easy role out there.
Hmm.
But he was put in that position because the cosmic law or whatever the law of the universe is, that he was supposed to play that role, in life. So
Right.
more as roles. Even this rebirth thing, I don't take it, that, oh, in your past life, you were my wife. So this time you have become my whatever, I don't take it that literally, because people use it too much in a loose manner, especially in spiritual organizations. They say, oh, you were my guru in past life, now you become my husband. And, they try to justify actions with those kind of things, delusional.
Hmm.
So I would rather say that it's a roles we are playing, you know. We're playing the role. Someone looks in a certain way, he'll play Ravan. Someone looks in a certain way, he'll play Ram. And I always say, this thing that at the end, Ram is going to have chai with Ravan in the backstage. It's not that they hold on to that, grudge.
Good
And
one.
the woman who's playing the role of Sita might actually end up marrying the guy who played Ravan. It doesn't matter. This was just a role. It was just a role. So yeah, so these roles are assigned, and this is play. So Indian spirituality you can understand from two words: Shunya and Leela. So there is Shunya, there is the source, and then there is Leela, the play. So this play goes on manifesting, and the play goes through the mind. The mind is the thing. So mind is Maya, they say. So the Maya is the dynamic expression, the Shakti. So some people on the Shakti dimension, they will be very strong, in different ways. Some people might be very good looking. Some people, so that is called a Sundaram, Sundaram aspect, where
Hmm.
something is very beautiful. That
Hmm.
someone might be very beautiful, someone might have a lot of money, someone might have a certain skill, someone might have very strong intellect, someone might be very charming, like a Shashi Tharoor or something. So it's all
Right.
different gifts, and it's different roles assigned. And we need all. That's what I think someone said, no, it takes many types to make the world or something like that.
Right, right, right. So, of course, there are a lot many questions that I have, and then we can always take it up in part two. But one question, because we are closing close to an hour now.
Yeah.
So, my suggestion, my last question would be, much has been said on the truth, that I am
Mm.
finding the truth.
Yeah.
You also use this word, the truth, in between, right? So, what is the truth? I mean, how does one seek it? And is there anything called as truth?
Yeah.
And much has been hampered. I'm finding the truth,
Yeah.
truth of life. What is it?
Yeah. So there is a truth, but what we do is when, let's say, someone fights with his wife,
Hmm.
he'll say she got upset because I said the truth.
Hmm.
But that is not truth, because anything which is a play of the mind and transactional in this world is not truth. They might be facts. So
Correct.
now I can see you sitting there with the shirt which has some kind of palm leaves or something on it, design. So I will say
Hmm.
Anoop is sitting on the red sofa with a palm leaf shirt.
Hmm.
But tomorrow, if I say this statement, it may not be
Hmm.
true because it's over, it's not a fact.
Yes.
It's a
Hmm.
fact now, but tomorrow the fact changes.
Hmm.
Anoop might be sitting on the green sofa tomorrow.
Hmm.
So facts change, but truth is something that is always there, which is eternal in some way.
So, what is that?
What is eternal? That is what we are trying to find out. Not trying to find out, that is what we want to get at. So, like the other day, I said, that there are many facts of my life that I am sad today because so and so happened. I am I am happy today because something happened. I'm in pleasure, I'm in joy, or whatever. But the I am is common to everything.
Hmm.
Because when I say Anoop is wearing red shirt, Anoop is wearing something, Anoop is drinking something, Anoop is eating something. Even this Anoop is actually not, Anoop is conscious, but it's an identity of the I am.
Hmm.
So I am doing this, I am doing that, I am thinking this, I am thinking that, I am feeling this, I am feeling that. What is common in all the sentences? I am.
Hmm.
So the sense of just being, that is the truth. And then getting grounded in that is the whole game. But you cannot do it, as I said, you cannot do it. It just has to happen in some way. And we are, whatever, through satsang and through meeting these kind of teachers and through nature or through meditation or whatever, we are all trying to sort of, we are doing our bit kind of thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I understand. So, I understand this thing that this is an ongoing search, and this
Mm,
is something that either strikes to you as a lightning, it comes to you as magical. Sometimes you find it while finding it
mm,
consciously. Sometimes you just hear it and you just understand. So it
mm.
is an ongoing search for all of us, right? And we should continue to be on this journey because it's very interesting, and one should kind of continue in it, not in a very serious way, but in a very light way, so that one enjoys the journey, right?
No, I think this whole idea of it being a journey, I think Ramana Maharshi said it beautifully. He said there is no destination.
Hmm.
So what he probably implied was the journey itself is the destination.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's not about, trying to be more spiritual, because that also is a trap,
Hmm. Hmm.
because ultimately you have to come out of this, so-called spiritual living.
Hmm.
Because that is also not real, because that is again, that I have to live in a certain way, I have to eat a certain kind of food. And what you will see with the so-called spiritual organizers, they enter your kitchen and your bedroom.
Hmm.
They'll tell
Hmm.
you what to eat, they'll tell you what you do in your bedroom. And that I feel is an invasion of privacy.
Hmm.
So that lifestyle which comes around spirituality, it actually stops you from experiencing many things.
Hmm.
so-called, formal spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually stops you from experiencing your life. But anyway, that is also meant to be in that situation. So I feel it is maybe you are a better person to, because you also met a lot of people and a lot of changes from them, and they get into some kind of formal spirituality and start creating a sort of dhong, a sort of uh, fuss about it. I think you'll have to unmute.
Sorry, there was a...
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, there was a call from Thailand, so
Oh,
I
good,
just to tell them to call back later.
good,
Okay.
good.
So,
So
so I think,
tomorrow, I think we'll also mention about tomorrow, because tomorrow we are having a meeting at 4:30 p.m. India time, 6 a.m. New York, and 12 p.m. Central European timing. So it's a Sunday meeting where we'll talk about these things, but there'll be more people with us who will, friends and speakers and lovers and all these people who will come and talk about different questions about life, can be relationships, can be career. I think today is a good trailer example for them, what kind of questions, because it can span over many things.
yes, yes,
Mm.
yes. So definitely. So, thanks, Floyd. I mean, we should kind of, I look forward to tomorrow's discussions.
Yeah,
And today has been, uh, the reflections that you have made on so many aspects of life has been very interesting for me. I mean, I
yeah,
got lost in this whole discussion. It did not feel like an interviewee or interviewer. It was like we were all amalgamated and we were
yeah,
together
yeah.
into the same vibrational field, right?
Yeah, that's what, no,
So
because see, again, we say something called as non-duality. I'm sure you heard this term.
yes, yes,
But then there's a stage where the guru is sitting and the others are coming and falling at his feet.
mm-hmm.
So they say everything is one, non-duality. But then somehow the guru puts himself on a higher pedestal. And that's the bigger contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
Means I'm not saying you start treating the guru like your chaddi buddy. That cannot happen in uh, practical life. But someone is actually putting himself on a higher pedestal and talking from a point of view of knowing more, then how is it non-duality?
Exactly. So what you're saying is like Jiddu Krishnamurti dissolved the Theosophical Society, where he did not want to be portrayed as a guru, and
Mm.
he sat along with everyone, and there was no like it was all like just to remove that pedestrian from the platform, right?
Yeah, I think Jiddu Krishnamurti at some point he got, that's what I heard, he got fed up of answering questions. So he said, I'll just come on the stage and I'll speak. But those
Right.
are different times. But I think these times, I think, this whole thing of a pedestal doesn't work. No, of course, there are people who are more exposed to certain areas of life, but the whole pedestal thing, and, again, it's a contradiction. So I think I hope for more conversations on this, where there are, different points of views, and then I can, of course, put forward what I've learned from all these gurus. Like someone said, it's a guru ring. Like the guru has given you things, different gurus in my case, many of them have given you things. So it's, you cannot just hold it. You have to give it. So that's my attempt. It's not a claim to for some that I've achieved some kind of power or supremacy. There's nothing like that, because ultimately all of us are going to become one with the earth, one with the elements. So that is the essential message. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So thanks for all the
Thank
reflections
you.
for today. I think it's been very, very enlightening, and it's been very interesting for me and for all the viewers. And I look forward to having another discussion with you at a convenient time, because
Yes,
there's so
yes,
many other questions which require reflection from
yes.
somebody like yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
So,
you. Thank
well,
you. And see you tomorrow.
thank you very much. Good night. Talk
Yes.
to you soon. Yeah.
Yeah, let's connect tomorrow. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.